right, good morning. We are live over at the Romeoville Forest Preserve, as we've done a handful of other live streams. And we're getting into that fall season where this area becomes so beautiful. But the leaves have started turning a little bit. You see they're starting to fall. But I tell you what, when fall really gets in motion and these leaves start turning, man, this is such a great place to walk. It's really beautiful out here. What's up, James? How are you, man? Good morning. Appreciate you liking the video, man. Thank you. There's another place I haven't done a live stream there yet, and actually when fall hits I'm gonna go out there because it's such an awesome place to go when the leaves change in the fall, and you can spend hours at this place. I've done other live streams at Wayland Lake. It's just right up the road from that place, and I'd love to do a live stream there because it's just, there's so much to see. It's so beautiful out there. Whoever liked the video, I also appreciate that. Thank you very much. It means a lot. Appreciate everybody joining. If you're new, that's my dog, Gray Goose. But I saw a Facebook post from Robert Cabral yesterday. You know, Robert Cabral says some goofy shit sometimes. It really baffles me. And fortunately, when I went to the comments, there were other people that shared my sentiment. I didn't even comment because I saw other people that were saying the same thing that I was thinking, and I thought, well, there's really no need to repeat. But I noticed that, of course, the people that were saying it, he wasn't responding to them. He was responding to other people, and I'm like, interesting, you would ignore it. But basically, his Facebook post said, it was just one of those little like pictures with words on it, you know, when people just repost little sayings or whatever, and it said, don't adopt a dog because you feel sorry for him. Adopt the dog because they will make your life better. And, you know, the sentiment is nice. It's a great thought, but it sets people up for failure. And what I mean by that is, again, that is a very human-centric post. And so someone else said, you know, there were a couple of other people that commented, though, that said, like, well, why not? You should adopt the dog also because you can make their life better, right? And then someone else had commented and said, yeah, but why don't we talk about the sacrifice that's required when you take in a new dog? You know, that dog is likely going to have behavioral issues. The cost of living, the cost of feeding it, what if it has health problems, the vet bills, so on and so forth. You know, there are a lot of other things to consider rather than, oh, just get the dog because they'll make your life better. The reality of taking a dog into your life is never the dream or the fantasy people build up in their heads. All right, Goose, there it is. I see it. And that's the problem I have with that. And you'd think someone like Robert Cabral would know that. The fantasy of adopting a dog is never lines up with the reality. Right? Like I said, it's a great sentiment, but it's just not reality. So if you're just joining, I was talking about a Facebook post that Robert Cabral posted yesterday. And it said, don't adopt a dog because you feel sorry for them. Adopt the dog because they will make your life better. And it's, like I said, it's a great sentiment, but it's just not reality. You know, how many people adopt dogs and then end up having issues and they get rid of the dog because it wasn't quite what they thought it would be. Maybe they got the dog thinking the dog will make their life better. No, yeah, and it's for sure, James. I just think sometimes he says things that are just like I don't understand it, you know. Now, I'm not with the whole balanced crowd, you know. I don't really promote what they do. It's not the first thing I've seen him post that I was like, I just really didn't understand it or didn't agree with it. But it's not meant to be personal with Robert. I just think when we say things like that, it tends to lead people astray, you know? Um, and I think people need to understand what they're getting themselves into when they take a dog in, right? It's a lot of work. It's not just this thing where I got this dog, I bring it home and everything's good. Like, it's not like a piece of furniture. You know what I mean? It's a living thing. And a lot of people don't, I get a lot of people contact me for puppy issues, and it's the same thing. People get puppies because they have this idea in their head, oh, puppies are cute, and oh, it's so little, and they're funny. But puppies are a lot of fucking work. And puppies are difficult. There's a lot of difficulty that comes with having a puppy. It's like a full-time job. And so when we don't make people aware of what's really involved when you adopt a dog, then you're doing a disservice to the dog and the human. Because if people aren't prepared for what could be, then when those challenges present themselves, they're a lot less likely to see it through. They're much more likely to give up and get rid of the dog, And sometimes it's not a good fit. Like, don't mistake what I'm saying. Sometimes you take a dog in and it's just not the right match, And that's okay. Those situations are valid too. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Maybe you have kids and that dog's just really not the right fit for your kids. Or maybe you take a dog in and it's just really not the right fit for your lifestyle. But you don't really know that until maybe a couple weeks in. And in that case, you're really doing what's best for you and the dog by not keeping it, And that's perfectly fine. But I would like to see people who have so much experience with dogs put out something like, adopt a dog because, you can give that dog a good life and you can meet the needs of the dog. But understand how much work it is. Understand the sacrifice that's necessary. Understand that it can be costly. Understand that dog will likely come with issues. There will be challenges. There will be problems to solve. Do some homework before you get it. Try to understand the animal before you take one in. Right? But instead, it's framed as, well, the dog can make my life better. Well, it's not that simple. And it's just not true. It's not the reality. Really appreciate everybody joining. If you're just joining, just talking about a post Robert Cabral made yesterday where it was like one of those little text pictures where, like a little sentiment, and it had said, don't adopt a dog because you feel sorry for him. Adopt him because he can make your life better. And that's all it said. And there were people in the comments who were expressing what I was thinking. And it was good to see. But I think that this can set people up for failure. Not understanding everything that's involved. And that's why people call me, because they adopt a dog and they end up having issues. It's like, well, people aren't prepared to handle those things. And sometimes it can be detrimental. Right? Sometimes you bite off a little bit more than you can chew. Especially if you're somebody who sees like a Cane Corso or a Boerboel or a Dogo Argentino, and you're like, oh, that dog's so cool, so powerful, I want one. And you're really not cut out for that kind of dog. You know what I mean? But you think maybe that dog can make your life better, when sometimes the dog makes your life a living nightmare. And so, you know, those are the people that end up having, you end up having to call somebody for help. And then it ends up being more money. You know, but maybe that person wasn't prepared for that expense or to be able to handle that situation. I mean, I've had many people call me or contact me for help, and they got in a little too deep, and they couldn't even, like, sometimes I wonder, you know, people have certain financial situations, and that's okay. But I've had people contact me. Like, I remember one person contacted me. She adopted 2 Doberman. I think it was an older woman. She got 2 Doberman. And I even gave her my base rate, and she said she couldn't afford that. And I'm thinking, well, why did you get 2 Doberman if you couldn't? Like, don't take dogs in you can't afford. Right? Because then if they do have a health problem, you can't even pay for it. You know, accidents happen. Things happen. You know, it's best to have, say, an emergency fund set aside for that dog in anticipation of maybe a health problem that nobody knew about kind of presents itself, or like I said, accidents happen, you know. Vet bills are not cheap. Now, fortunately, you know, a lot of health-related issues can be prevented by, you know, a proper diet. So I recommend, you know, if you're feeding your dog dried kibble, I'd recommend not feeding them dried kibble and go to a whole foods, meat-based diet. But appreciate everybody joining. If you're just joining, talking about a Facebook post from Robert Cabral where he had said, don't adopt a dog because you feel sorry for them. Adopt a dog because they can make your life better. And I just could not agree. I could not disagree more with that sentiment. I have 2 videos on this subject too, where because somebody was asking for advice because they were looking to get a dog, and they were just wondering, well, what should I look out for? So I have 2 videos. One of them, which discusses something called shelter speak, which is the cute and flowery and humanizing language that shelters will often use, and they'll use it to hide serious issues a dog has, or they'll frame it in this cute way where it's not that big of a deal and it's a problem, rather than just telling you straight up the dog has this problem. You know, they use all this cutesy flowery bullshit language, and that can set people up for disaster too. But I have another one where, you know, there's 2 big questions that if you're thinking about getting a dog that I think everybody should ask themselves. And it's A, why do you want this dog? What's the motivation? Because that ties into his Facebook post. Is it a selfish reason? Do you think the dog can make your life better? But well, what about making the dog's life better? Are you able to do that? Can you meet the needs of the dog? And how much do you understand about dogs? How much do you know about the animal? You know, I'd recommend if you're going to get a dog, take some time to understand the animal. A little bit of homework is better than none. You put yourself in a much better position for handling challenges when they come up, rather than doing no legwork at all. And so, but understanding what's the motivation behind getting this dog is important, because, you know, I've known people. I know somebody who runs like she boards dogs, right? And she had a client who, this guy worked like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, but he had this dog and it was kept in a cage 12 hours a day. And it's like, well, what's the point of having the dog then? And this dog was out of its mind. This dog was neurotic as hell. So of course it begs the question, why did you get this dog? Right? So if you don't get a dog for the right reasons, then it's going to cause problems, right? And so I just find Facebook posts like that to be misleading, right? As I've said, people have this fantasy of what it's like to have a dog in their head, and then they get one, and the reality ends up being something completely different. and sometimes you get lucky, right? Sometimes you get lucky and you get a great dog, and there's no problems, and things are good, or those challenges are very easy to work through, very minimal. That happens too. But there's a lot of dogs out there that have issues. A lot of people out there that need help. So I think it's important to be upfront with people, so they understand what is the reality of having a dog. What is it really like? How much work does it really take? What are the challenges you could possibly be faced with on a behavioral level, on a financial level? What does that all look like? You know what I mean? And a lot of times people, they get in over their head. They bite off a little more than they can chew. It's maybe like, it's an issue nowadays. So you get a car, and you really want that car. You think that car is so cool. You go out and you take out a $50,000 loan for this car, that, especially in the car market now, where it's way overpriced. And then the monthly payments are like more than a house. And then you realize, like, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. So very similar to getting a dog, where you think it'll be great. Oh, it's gonna be so cool, it's gonna be so much fun, and then you bring the dog home, and the dog is a fucking nightmare, and you're like, well, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be. And then the dog ends up getting returned or put down or whatever. And now, of course, there are other things that lead to these issues. We especially in America, we have a serious problem with overbreeding. Way too many fucking dogs out there. Dogs get euthanized by the hundreds or thousands every day. It's like that's another issue. Shelters are overcrowded, right? But this also ties into people that they'll take in. They're not even just one dog can make your life very difficult. But imagine taking in 2, 3, 4, 5 dogs. The home that Goose came from had 12 dogs. She was a foster in a 12 dog home. Can you imagine having to deal with 12 dogs every fucking day? And of course, the issues Goose had when I got her, the owner just really couldn't figure out, she's a foster. The foster really couldn't understand why she did what she did. And that was just one dog. So yeah, I understand it's well-intentioned. It's good intentions. But good intentions don't solve problems. Good intentions can maybe lead you to the person who can help you solve your problem. But being well-intentioned does not meet the needs of a dog. At least in and of itself, right? So oftentimes the most well-intentioned people are the most harmful to dogs, because they lead with love and affection, and they think that's all a dog needs. And that creates its own set of problems. But really appreciate everybody joining. If you're new to the channel, welcome. That's my dog, Gray Goose. We are at the Romeoville Forest Preserve. We love going here. It's a beautiful little area, especially in the fall. Starting to see the leaves change and come off the trees. Just put out a video last night discussing power dynamics, for those of you who are interested. It's titled, How Do I Establish Leadership with My Dog? Something I don't hear people discuss. But I mean, for those watching, how many of you have gotten a dog? And the idea of getting a dog was much different than when you brought that dog home. How many people have been in that situation, right? I mean, shoot, when I adopted Bruno, you know, he had serious aggression problems. But I don't know if the shelter, I don't know if he just didn't display it at the shelter, or maybe if they knew about it and didn't tell me. I don't know. But I was not aware of it when I got him. It presented itself to me the day I brought him home. But that was a challenge I was prepared for, and I was willing to see that through. But I was also in a position to do that. So not everyone's in a position to bring a dog home who has serious aggression issues and is willing to work through that, or have an understanding of how to work through that. And I was still very new, you know. I had had my first dog for about 6 months, but she didn't have the same issues he did. So I think it's just really important for people to understand, you know, what they're getting themselves into when they adopt a dog, and to make sure that the motivation behind it is the right motivation. Yeah, it happens, James. You know, how did that work out for you? Is that one of the ones you had for a while? See, the good thing about that is, like, if you can see that challenge through, it's a hell of a learning opportunity, right? It's an opportunity for growth. But a lot of people don't see it that way. They're not, and they don't really want to go down that road. That's awesome, James. That's awesome, man. Like I said, even a little bit of preparation is going to serve you far better than none at all. You know, because at least you know what to expect. You know, and at least knowing what to expect, nothing's going to come out of nowhere and blindside you. Oh, that's awesome, James. That's awesome. Yeah, and forget about aggression. You know, a German Shepherd. That's, say the dog didn't even have aggression. That's its own set of challenges right there. You know, a lot of people get German Shepherds that really shouldn't have them. You know. And be honest though, the German Shepherds is one of my least favorite breeds. They're just not for me. I'm just not a fan. But you know, teach their own. But I've worked with some really, really good ones. I've worked with some awesome German Shepherds. They're just not my cup of tea. I like the bullies. Since I was a kid, I don't know what it's about the bullies. Since I was a kid, I've always, you know, when I was a kid, I always said, oh, one day I want to have a bulldog. And Bruno was a half bulldog, but Goose is she's 100% American bulldog. Now, sometimes I do wish she was full size, but you know, whatever. I never thought I'd have a dog this small. But it's just, you know, she's an amazing dog, and it's like, well, you know, that's just how it went. But if you just joined, I really appreciate it. Just discussing a post Robert Cabral made yesterday about not adopting a dog because you feel sorry for it, but adopt it because it'll make your life better. And I think that's a horrible sentiment to give people, because it sets people up for failure. think people should really understand what they're getting themselves into when they get a dog. What are the realities of that? What are the potential things to expect? You mean why don't I like them, James? Is that what you mean, or why do I think that not everyone should have one? I suppose I can answer both questions. I don't personally like them. Now, like I said, I've worked with some great ones that I think were much more balanced. But I've worked with some German Shepherds that they're such mentally driven dogs. And I remember one, his name was Rocky. Now, I suspect they really screwed this dog up because they had used a bunch of e-collars on him before. And this dog had anxiety problems like I've never experienced. And I just find that most of the German Shepherds I've worked with are very, like I said, they're very mental dogs. And I've worked with a lot of ones that are they're just, you know, the particular issues they have, since they're directly tied to the owner's issues, they're hard to work with when the owner's not really the right fit for that dog. And so it presents a lot of issues because it's like, unless the owner's up to the challenge, you know, like I'll tell you a story. I had one client who had a German Shepherd and I forget, it was like some kind of mountain dog. And her and her boyfriend they were very just kind of low energy, you know. She had really a hard time being assertive. And German Shepherds need that. They're like pit bulls. They need strong leadership. And they're very active. They need that mental stimulation. But she couldn't be assertive with them. And so the German Shepherd was controlling things in the house. I mean, this dog tore up their couch. The dog was a nightmare on the leash. And I remember she was one of the ones where we worked through, I think I spent 4 hours with him the first session, and things went really well, but she could see how much work it was going to be to get him where she needed him to be. And we had another session, and that went really well. But then, when I got her instructions to her, she didn't really, I could tell she was going to be one of those ones that just wasn't going to do the work. So some months went by, she canceled our last session, and then some months went by, and then she got on Thumbtack again and contacted me again, and I'm like, you have my phone number. Well, no, she said she lost my phone number. Then she says, her German Shepherd had become aggressive now, and I told her, I was like, this is a potential outcome if you don't give him what he needs, and she just was not the right fit for that dog. And then the problem ended up escalating. And, it's the same when you have people that are not meant to have pit bulls. It's the same outcome. The dog becomes aggressive. And it's just not a good situation. Yeah, it's not that I have anything against the German Shepherd. They're just not for me, James. Like I said, I met some great ones, but I met some other ones that are they're just not for me. I'm not, I don't know, they don't speak to me like bullies do. But actually, my most favorite scar came from a German, that scar right there came from another German Shepherd. That actually was a really good session, but he opened my arm up, man. I was right in the middle of telling his owner, because we had just taken him outside, and I was right in the middle of telling his owner to relieve the tension on the leash, otherwise he may, and then he lunged at me, and I was able to back up, but he clipped my arm, but it opened my arm up. I mean, it was crazy. I could see my muscle, the nerve, and it was wild. I agree with that, James. Not having a pity party for your dog. I agree. I just don't agree with. I think he just could have said it better rather than saying get a dog because it'll make your life better. I mean, that's just not. It's not true, right? A lot of times people get dogs and they're presented with a lot of difficulties, and it's the dog isn't making their life better. The dog is making their life more challenging. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. Yeah. You've seen that firsthand, James. The German Shepherds they're like pit bulls. They need a certain kind of owner, and if you're not that particular a good match for them, then I would just avoid them. Don't get them. Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, James. Now, one of the German Shepherds I actually really liked working with was it's on my channel. I recorded this session, but it was Ranger. Now, unfortunately, Ranger was one of those situations where so it was an older woman and her daughter bought her this dog, and I think, why did you get your elderly mother a fucking young German Shepherd? But luckily, Ranger wasn't too difficult to work with. Like Ranger was one of those German Shepherds that I enjoyed working with. You know, uh, like I said, I've worked with some German Shepherds where I'm like, some screws loose with this with this dog. You know. Um, but that's just me. You know, that's just me. Really appreciate everybody joining. If you're new to the channel, welcome. That's my dog, Gray Goose. We are at the Romanville Forest Preserve. Yeah, James, it's one of those things where it's like, I think we'd have better success with dogs at the shelter if when people walked in there, they just had a better idea of what are they getting themselves into, you know, especially with certain types of dog. Really appreciate everybody joining. If you're just joining, I'm discussing a Facebook post Robert Cabral made, and it was just a picture with text that said, don't adopt a dog because you feel sorry for it. Adopt the dog because it will make your life better. And I think this sentiment really sets people up for failure, and I don't think it's a good sentiment to give people. It sounds to me, it's almost like buy that car because it'll make you feel better, or buy that purse because it'll make you feel, buy that dress because it'll boost your self-esteem. It just doesn't work that way, you know. You know, a dog's a living thing, and you know, it's like not everybody should go out and get a horse. You know, you need to understand how to handle a horse, and not everyone's cut out for having horses. You know what I mean? Understanding the animal is very important, and very few people take the time to understand dogs before they get them. And it just creates a lot of problems. Oh, there's a garbage can right here. I'm here. I'm holding this bag, Goose, and I got this garbage can right here. I want to keep holding that. All right, come on. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Then, of course, every time you add a dog to that equation, it further compounds the problem. You know, if you have a dog that has issues and you haven't completely resolved those issues, don't add another dog. Don't get another dog. I've had clients even ask me because they think maybe the dog needs a companion, and I always say don't do it. It's a bad idea. If you haven't solved the issues with the first dog, don't get another one. It's not going to solve anything. Because just like you didn't know what issues that first dog was going to have, you bring a new one and you don't know what issues that new dog is going to have. You don't know how that dynamic is going to change with the addition of the new dog. You don't even know if that dog will get along with your current dog, right? And so it's just not something I would recommend. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is Gray Goose. I love these live streams because there's no editing, there's no fancy gimmick, you can't hide anything. All right, what you see is what you get. But I just put out a new video last night discussing how to establish leadership with your dog. And there's one crucial thing that's present in every relationship that I don't really hear anyone talk about. Of course, you often hear the word leadership thrown around, but I don't really hear anyone breaking down what that means. So leadership is it's a skill set. It's not just one thing. What's up, OT? Yeah, OT, so I'm talking about Robert Cabral made a Facebook post yesterday, and he said it was like one of those, you know, it was like a pictures, but it's just text. It's just text. But it said, don't adopt a dog because you feel sorry for it. Adopt the dog because it can make your life better. And I'm just talking about how I think this is a horrible sentiment to give people because you're not shedding light on the difficulties that and the challenges that can come with getting a new dog. And people have this fantasy in their head about what getting a dog will be, and the reality never lives up to that fantasy. And so simply just saying the dog will make your life better as if it's a guarantee is a false bag of goods, or whatever the saying is. It's a bunch of bullshit. Because you could adopt that dog thinking, oh, the dog will make my life better, and the dog has serious issues that now is making your life a living nightmare. Right? So why not reframe that to how can I meet the needs of this dog, because it's a living thing, and what do I really know about this animal to begin with? Right? Understanding what to expect as far as what kind of challenges could come up, what kind of difficulties, what sacrifices do I need to make, even on a financial level, like how much could this dog cost? What if the dog has health problems? Right, OT. People hear the sob story. Exactly. And you see those, I see those a lot on Facebook, YouTube, and a lot of them seem fake to me. It's like this sob story that's constructed to make people feel a certain way. I hate that shit. It's like you're manipulating people's emotions Because of course, anytime someone sees a dog, and you know, you have this story or this picture, maybe the dog's injured, automatically you're engaging people's emotions, and it's very manipulative, you know. I've even seen AI generated posts like that where people are asking for donations, and I'm like, oh come on, y'all are trying to rip people off with a fucking sob story. It's not even real, but people buy into it, you know. Doesn't take much. Right, Goose? Don't take much, girl. But I was just saying to OT how you know, people will take multiple dogs in because they feel sorry for all these dogs, and you know, they don't really understand the animal to begin with, and then they further compound the problem. But it ties into that self-serving nature of, oh, the dog will make my life better, and I'm adopting this dog to fill an emotional void in myself, and it just doesn't work that way, and it's not a good idea. Definitely, dogs are very resilient, for sure. Right. I totally agree, James. I think people have a really hard time understanding that dogs just don't operate that way, and they will move on very quickly. You know what I mean? I think that's a harsh reality for people to come to terms with. That dogs aren't sentimental like people, right? You know, they're animals at the end of the at the end of the day. They just don't operate like we do. They don't have the same emotional range that people do. I don't know why people think they do. They just don't, right? It just doesn't work that way. Sure, I just think that that time is it's very short-lived, James. But of course, depending on the bond that dog had with the owner, you know, maybe that dog just doesn't give a fuck that the owner's gone. You know what I mean? But really appreciate everybody joining. If you're new, welcome. When I post this too, I'll post the text that he posted so you can see it. That's really all it said, though. But I think it's important that people understand that getting a dog for selfish reasons is usually not going to end well. Because also too, you know, you take a dog in thinking it will make your life better, and that dog does have issues, and now maybe you fall for the board and train bullshit where you pay thousands of dollars to send that dog to somebody to, quote, train it, and you know what I mean. And I wouldn't recommend going that route, but it's you know, those are things that people don't, for whatever reason, expect when they get one. Morning. But this also plays into the whole, people humanizing dogs way too much, and we don't really respect the animal for what it is. We project onto the dog what we want it to be, and the dog does not agree. The dog does not see it that way. I remember Brandon Fouché told a story in one of his videos. He said he had a client who reached out to him, and I think she had just gotten this dog. The dog had serious problems, and I guess one day she sent him pictures showing how the dog was doing well, and she said, "See, Brandon, all this dog needed was love and affection." And he was warning her against this idea. And one day she called him and said that the dog had bitten somebody. Or I remember if it bit her or it bit somebody. It's like, yeah, I tried telling you. I tried to tell you. But we are our own worst enemies, right? Oftentimes. But it's also a good idea. Never make decisions based on emotion. It's never a good idea. And oftentimes people adopt dogs and it's driven by emotion, right? It's an emotional decision rather than a rational one. And I wouldn't recommend that either. Right, Goose? If you're just joining, welcome. Happy to have you. Talking about a Robert Cabral post where he said, don't adopt a dog because you feel sorry for it. Adopt it because it will make your life better. And if that were inherently true, then people wouldn't call individuals like me every day for help because they have serious problems. The dog is not making their life better at that moment. But it's this pretty sentiment wrapped up in this emotional bullshit, where it puts love and affection at the forefront, where it's, the dog will fill some of emotional void you have. And it's just not the case. Right, Goose? It ain't the case. But oh yeah, that stuff falling out of the trees, girl. I think I've pretty much said everything I need to say on it. So, anybody's anything they want to share? We can shoot the shit for a couple minutes, and then I'll shut this down. Just posted a new video last night talking about how to establish leadership with your dog. There was a live stream I did too, but the video was much more comprehensive, and I showed video examples and so on and so forth. There's one thing that I don't really hear anyone discuss in terms of leadership, but is a very crucial element that's involved in all relationships that I think a lot of people just aren't even aware of. But it's something that, especially when dealing with dogs and multiple dogs, is something that everybody needs to have an understanding of. Right, Goose? Goose understands it. Man, that fence does not look like it's doing well. One gust of wind, I think that, well, actually, that's pretty sturdy, actually. Come on, girl. If you're just joining, I pretty much already said everything I need to say on the topic. So I'd recommend just going back if you'd like to hear what's being discussed. I do appreciate you joining. Sounds like we got a dog on the other side of this fence. Come on, girl. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, let's go. Oh, that goes to, I made a video a long time ago about hackles. And people automatically conclude that if a dog's hackles are up, it means that there's some kind of aggressive intent. And I've never found that to be accurate. Hackles seem to come up when there's just they're overstimulated. The dog's nervous system's firing off because of some kind of stimulus in the environment. So in that case, it was the dog barking behind the fence, right? But a dog's hackles being raised does not mean that a fight's about to break out. Almost like when you get goosebumps, you know, your nervous system's just getting a surge. And that hair stands up, you know. But anybody has anything they'd like to share or contribute, now's the time to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to end this stream. So we're about to get to the car. There's little gray goose. You just joining? Right, what you think, bro? Oh, you hear the construction equipment, don't you? All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining. Everybody who liked the video, thank you so much. If anybody's not aware, I made a post about it, but there's this new feature YouTube's got called the hype button. So anybody can hype a video, or you can hype 3 times a week for free. And so, and anytime you hype a video, it shoots it in the algorithm up. You know, sometimes I guess there's leaderboards, or it's just a way to get more eyeballs on a particular video. If a video has got a lot of hype, you'll see a little icon under it, and it's getting a lot of attention. And so, but the video has to be under 7 days old. So like my 2 recent ones, if you find value in it, you want to hype it up, feel free. Be greatly appreciated. If anybody has behavioral issues and they need help, email me, as I offer virtual coaching. Memberships will be live very, very soon. Anyway, hope y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you very soon.